You eat well, you exercise, you don't smoke, and you watch your salt. But somehow your blood pressure is still high. Well, you're not alone, particularly if you're a woman. Because there are 8 things that quietly raise blood pressure, particularly in females, that most doctors do not ask about. Some are habits, some are health conditions that women get screened for less than men, and some are sitting in your kitchen cupboard right now. But today I'm going to walk you through what to do about each. And if we haven't met before, I'm Maria and I'm a registered dietitian who has helped hundreds of people lower their blood pressure. And I'm here to help you too. Now, first we need to talk about salt. It's poorly understood and I made a full video last week about it, so I recommend checking that out after this video. But most people are doing the salt thing completely wrong. And there are 2 changes that are way simpler than you might realize that can make a big difference here. So I'll leave that video linked below. But today I want to talk about everything else. The stuff that doesn't get talked about enough. The things that can keep your numbers high even when your diet looks great on paper and you have the salt nailed down. So let's get into them. The first one is something that I see in clinic all of the time now, and almost nobody connects it to their blood pressure. And that is insulin resistance. When your body stops responding properly to insulin, which you may have no symptoms for in the beginning, 2 things happen. Your blood sugar starts to creep up and your body starts holding on to more sodium and water, which directly raises your blood pressure. And you can have insulin resistance and still be a healthy weight. You can have it without ever even being told that maybe you're pre-diabetic. Common signs are belly fat that is just impossible to shift, energy crashes after meals, intense sugar cravings, skin tags, or being told that your fasting glucose is fine but a bit high. So what you need to do is ask your doctor for a fasting insulin and a HbA1c result. Do not ask for just fasting glucose alone. Glucose can look normal for years when insulin is actually doing all of the heavy lifting behind the scenes. And in your diet, I want you to prioritize protein at every meal as well as lots of vegetables for fiber. You can also start trying to reduce ultra-processed foods, and going for short walks after meals is also very helpful here. Now, number 2 is sleep, and this has 2 layers to it. The first is how much and then how well you actually sleep. Because even one bad night of sleep on its own in isolation can raise your blood pressure. And then chronic poor sleep, under 6 hours a night, this is linked to long-term hypertension. So is poor quality sleep, even if you're in bed for 8 hours. Now, the second layer is the bigger one, and this is sleep apnea. Sleep apnea has unfortunately historically been seen as a male condition. The stereotype is the overweight, snoring guy whose wife elbows him at night. But here's the thing, research suggests women are diagnosed with sleep apnea at roughly half the rate of men, even though we're absolutely getting it too. And this is because up to 40% of women with sleep apnea, they don't have the classic symptoms that doctors are trained to look for. Instead of loud snoring and gasping, women tend to have things like persistent fatigue no matter how long they sleep. They have insomnia, morning headaches and brain fog, mood disturbances, anxiety, and even nightmares. And there's also a cultural piece to this too. I find that women are less likely to consider their snoring. They consider it maybe unladylike and don't want to report on it. Whereas men more often, when they go to the doctor, their wife might have to go with them and she's the one sitting there describing it. But the result here is that women's sleep apnea tends to get missed or misdiagnosed. And if you do have this every single night, sleep apnea can cause serious spikes to blood pressure, which is why this left untreated is one of the strongest drivers of hypertension. That simply will not respond to lifestyle change. So if you're waking up unrefreshed, if you're getting migraines and morning headaches, or if your partner has noticed that you gasp in your sleep, do go and get tested. There's even home tests now available, because treating sleep apnea, this can really help drop your blood pressure significantly. Now, number 3 is stress. And I know everyone says, manage your stress, like it's that simple. But this is the actual mechanism. When you're chronically stressed, your body produces high levels of cortisol, and cortisol raises your blood pressure. It also raises your blood sugar and tells your body to hold onto fat around the middle. Now, you don't need to start meditating for an hour a day. The research supports something so much simpler. Just trying to build in 10 minutes a day of doing something that significantly helps your body to relax. You want to take your body out of fight or flight. This could just be taking 10 minutes to step outside without any interactions, no phone, no stimulus, and just breathing and being in nature. It could be meditating, it could be journaling. It's whatever works best for you, but even just 10 minutes a day can make a very big difference. And the 2025 American Blood Pressure Guidelines even have this in there. They list slow, controlled breathing as an evidence-based approach for blood pressure reduction. Now, number 4 is one a lot of women in their late 30s and 40s are not being told about, and that is perimenopause. When estrogen starts declining, which can happen a decade before your last period, blood pressure tends to go up. Estrogen helps keep your blood vessels flexible, and as it drops, your vessels stiffen, and your numbers can creep up even if literally nothing else has changed. And this is why so many women, they hit their mid-40s, they go to their doctor, never had a blood pressure issue in their life, and suddenly it's high. And they can't figure out why. So it's not your diet, it's not your fitness, it's your hormones. So first, just know that this is normal. Second, then know that lifestyle changes can still work. Hormones, yes, they are powerful, but we can still work with them. Strength training becomes especially important here because it supports muscle and vascular health. And if you are in perimenopause and your blood pressure is going up, it is worth a conversation with your GP about HRT. It might be right for you. Now, it's an individual decision, but it's a conversation worth having. Number 5 is caffeine, and the new American guidelines are quite specific on this. If you have high blood pressure, it's recommended to keep caffeine intake under 300 milligrams a day. That is roughly 3 small cups of coffee, or maybe 2 larger ones from a coffee shop. And if your blood pressure is very uncontrolled, this recommendation drops further to limit it to 1 cup. For most healthy people now, I always say coffee is fine. In fact, I think coffee is great. But if your blood pressure is elevated, caffeine can help keep it elevated, which we don't want. And remember, caffeine isn't just in coffee, it's in smaller amounts in tea. It's also in things like energy drinks, vitamin drinks, some supplements, chocolate, matcha, and like pre-workout supplements. So if you think this could be something worth noting for yourself, just do a rough jot up of how much caffeine you're having every day and see if you need to reduce it. Now, number 6 is one that really fires me up, but it's a lot of like these supplements that are marketed towards women that are like kind of like fat burner or metabolism boosting supplements. Because a huge proportion of these weight loss supplements, they are targeted towards women, and they can contain ingredients that are known to push up blood pressure. The big offenders are bitter orange, also listed as synephrine, guarana, ephedra-related compounds, and a few others that I'm not even going to try and pronounce, but I'll add them to the screen here. Some of these have actually been banned. However, some are still illegal, and they are quite expansively everywhere in the women's supplement field and in TikTok shop, so please be careful. Stay safe. So please just read the label of every supplement that you're taking, or reach out to me and I'm happy to look at things for people. But honestly, just be careful because it's a very unregulated area. So unless it's something that is medically approved and recommended by your doctor or your dietitian, please, please, please be careful. And number 7 is alcohol, which is a little bit harder for people to hear, but even moderate drinking does raise blood pressure. The new guidelines recommend no more than 1 drink a day for women and no more than 2 drinks a day for men, but really the less the better. And in clinic, what I find, I see happening all the time, is that people will say, well, I'm just having the odd small glass of wine with my dinner. But a standard drink or a standard glass of wine is like much smaller than what you realize. So the glass of wine that you are pouring for yourself at home is probably 2 standard drinks already. But the good news is alcohol is one of the most responsive contributors. So if you do currently drink alcohol right now and you start to reduce it, it's probably going to have a very good positive impact on your blood pressure. So try to track your intake for a week, lower it slightly, and then see what happens. Let me know in the comments if anybody has extraordinary results. Now, lastly is one of the most surprising ones on the list, not very well known, but important, and that is licorice. Real licorice, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, apologies if I'm not, but the find that you find in like candies, in certain teas, and some herbal remedies, it does contain a compound that can meaningfully rise blood pressure. I'm not talking about the artificial flavor of licorice, it's like the real licorice, the actual root. So if you eat or drink anything that contains this on a regular basis, this could absolutely be contributing. And sometimes these licorice supplements are marketed as like for adrenal and hormonal health, so do check anything like that you might have in your cupboards. But if you do find it, I would then swap it out. Okay, so there we have it. That was a lot. But let's make sure we take some actionable steps after watching this. Make sure you go back and watch video 1, because if I didn't mention it already, this is a 3-part series all about blood pressure, because blood pressure is so important. So make sure you watch episode 1 if you haven't seen it already, and stay tuned for episode 3, where we talk about your brain health and dementia risk. But from today, I want you to comment below or write down 3 little action points that you're going to take today after watching the video. There's no point in watching these things if you're not implementing change afterwards. So let me know, let me hold you accountable, but start. Don't try to do everything at once, just pick 1, 2, or even 3. Now, if this video was helpful, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. YouTube now also has a hype feature button, so if you see that, it would be very thankful to you if you press that too. If you have any questions, comment below and I'll do my best to get back to you. As always, thank you very much for watching. Stay happy and stay healthy, and I'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching.